All right, well, let's start. It sounds like a good spirited practice even before the field goal.
Well, the weather change really makes a difference. When you get mid-October, 1st November, it kind of gets football weather. These guys are tired of practicing in the 80, 90-degree weather, and especially on this turf, it gets close to 100 every day. So it's kind of a relief for them, but they have more energy all the way through practice, and practices you usually get a lot more out of it.
And I got to think coming off a win helps, especially what these guys have been through. And you talked a little bit about that Friday night, I guess it was.
Yeah, wins cure all illnesses or whatever. It's amazing what things do. Last week out here, we're kind of dragging around coaches, players, trying to figure out, what happened last week. And you got to remember, you got another game this week. So we're having good practices because of winning and because of the weather. And today our Mark Barr, who's in intensive care, had successful surgery, so we just announced that in surgery all day, which makes a big difference for these kids because they're worried about it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Is there any more on that update?
No, he's still in a critical condition in intensive care, but he's had all kind of problems in his head, and they had to do plastic surgeries and all those things, and they decided to go ahead and get out of the way, which was a blessing for him, but he's recovering a little bit more every day.
You guys face another team that quite honestly has struggled a lot. But I guess they got their lesson at South Florida, that there's nobody on this schedule, regardless of record, that you can take lightly.
No, you've got to go play. You've got to play, and you've got to bring your best game, and because you can't ever tell what's going to happen to the other team, and especially this team, they lose their head coach, and they got a shot in the arm last week. They probably should have beat South Florida like we did, had a chance to win, but we didn't do it. And every week it's different things that come up, different problems, different situations, and we just try to take our best game and hopefully we play our best game.
How much can they change, or can they change much at all with a new head coach? And maybe he has a different philosophy, but he can't really do a whole lot to change what they did in training camp and up to this point, right?
I've been through this and watched and played against teams that have made changes before midseason. Usually it ups the enthusiasm a little bit because you have a change in personality. It's a little bit looser ship. Guys have a little bit more energy. They might not practice as hard. Every little detail is not looked at, and so it's kind of like shooting from the hip. They're going to go out and, hey, whatever happens just happens, and so you got to worry about teams like this.
They're
Go ahead.
they're a big power built roster, big power built team. Do you try to speed them up, or does it matter? You just do your thing and not really worry about them?
Well, you got to play your game, and if you're picking up the tempo, obviously, and it works, you keep doing it. But we'll try different situations throughout the game and see how that works. But they are big. This will be the biggest team that we play. Their offense and defensive line are huge, and we're going to build this team with speed. We've got a little speed as we speak, and we're going to build with each year with a little bit more speed. So it'll be speed against bulk going into this game.
So what we saw Friday night, maybe with a lot of four wide and all that, maybe not necessarily what we'll see? Or?
Well, last week it was by necessity that we went four wides a lot because both of our tight ends were injured, and they played a little bit, but I think we played 10 or 12 plays with a tight end, but we didn't do much with a tight end because it was just for show, because we had to put a tight end in the game just for some of our blocking schemes. But they were about 50 or 60%. This week they're ready to go, and so you'll see more tight end in the game. 1-2 tight ends, probably not as much four wides.
Now that you've got McClung back, how much did it help Shaq Washington stepping into that role and gaining some confidence? You had McClung back in there, and now you've got two guys really that can do a lot of damage in the slot.
Yeah. Well, it's all about confidence. McClung kind of lost his confidence because he's only played in 2 games this year that made a difference, and he's getting to game speed. But Shaq's had a great year, and now with both of them in the game at the same time, it takes pressure off one or the other because you can't double both of them. Somebody's going to get single covered if they're playing man coverage. We've seen our slots bracketed and sometimes have 3 guys on them, but now you can't do that. So it's up to the quarterback to find out who's going to be open.
Tion Green had a good game. You talked about him some after Friday and what he's done to get to this point. Is he continuing to do the things that allows him to maybe show up on game day and get a little more involved?
Yeah, number one, he's growing up. He's getting more mature. You got to take it serious, and sometimes these younger guys, they don't really understand the sense of urgency. He's one of those, and he's a great kid. He's a clown out here sometimes. Sometimes you got to understand when it's time to go to work and put your business face on. And and but that happens. You know, if you play before your third year in college football very often, you're a special athlete that can learn very fast, or you don't have a lot of depth in that situation. So we've had a little depth, and we've allowed him to grow up a little bit, and he's learning. Last week he had fresh legs. He looked fast in the game, and he hadn't played a whole lot. So we're excited about him. He gives us a bigger back out of the backfield, catching passes, running the ball, and then also in pass protection. A little Ralph in there sometimes blocking those linebackers and defensive end. It's a mismatch. But I tell you, he holds his own, but you can't ask him to do that very often.
Right. Yeah, good deal.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
Coach, thanks.